What's up, everybody? It's your favorite short-armed lizard's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Gigapower Grimlock. This is on loan to me from Collecticon. You can find him on Instagram under the same name. And I'm pretty sure this concludes the Gigapower Dinobots, right? They did a swoop, they did a sludge, and then they did the first two. So yep, this is it. So that's something. That's an accomplishment. That's an achievement. It took them a long time to do it, but they did it. And shout out to anybody that held in there in order to get this, if this is what they wanted. But what I want to do is review this, and in order to do that, I got to start with accessories. So one of the first things that I want to get out of the way is this translucent piece of plastic that goes on his chest. It's tinted a bit, like it's a darker shade, so it's not just straight clear. And you simply just line it up and push it in. He comes with 2 T-Rex arms, but they're actually 3 fingers, so it's closer to an Allosaurus, am I right? Anyway, connect here at a ball peg, and then they come down to a hinge. Actually, this is more just a ball joint, and it comes down to a hinge for the elbow. The wrists swivel, but it's tight. Watch, it'll work itself out. See, I could tell it was going to do so because the fitting is so tight. I'm guessing they didn't account for the chrome. So be careful. It'll move, just be careful with it. And then you have the fingers that are on a base pin knuckle. When you attach them, just slide the ball peg into the socket and you'll be good to go. Make sure you have it so that when you wrap the hand around, the long finger is going to sit towards the inside. I think that should be the most accurate, best looking way to do it. We'll do it on that side as well. Comes with this signature blaster. We have the translucent cockpit. It does come off, and you have the gold detailings underneath. That looks nice. It's a decent enough sculpt. And yeah, the translucent here, and so on and so forth. I'm not crazy about this, just in the design, because it has these translucent bits, and I just don't find them to be realistic, I guess would be the word I would choose. Like, I find them to be toyish, and it kind of ruins the suspension of disbelief for me, but that's definitely a subjective preference kind of thing. And it's got some scratches here on it, on his, but maybe they'll just rub off. Looks like they might. That'll go in his hand, and typical Masterpiece style. He comes with his sword. We have the red translucent. We have the activation down here for the light up effect, which I don't have the batteries for, so whatevs. Black plastic, pretty simple. He'll hold that the same way as his gun. Typical Masterpiece style. Lastly, he comes with an alternate head, and this has the teeth on it, which is a cool, like a nice little change. It's not just the lens swap, like there's extra detailings here, and I think that that's cool. Kind of IDW-esque as well. And then the red lens with the metallic paint on it, and it just pops off a ball peg and swaps out. He comes with the crown, kind of a comic book thing, but it's cool. It's sculpted beautifully, jagged, all with the gold finish on it. Unfortunately, there's nothing between it and the styrofoam, so like little styrofoam parts have like stuck onto this. I'm sure that Collecticon will be able to remove this, but just one of those kind of unfortunate things. And that'll just drop right on his head. Now let's talk about the figure. So the materials feel good. It feels good in hand. Heavy weight, etc., etc. So all of that stuff checks out. No issue. Let's talk about the head. It's on a ball peg. Nice sculpt work on the helmet. Blue metallic paint on the eyes. Get you up to there, down to there, straight forward, but to the side, it always is kind of looking up. And that's because of the sculpt of the collar around the head, which I think was a poor choice. Because you lose so much articulation and kind of character, because he's always kind of looking up if you have him looking over, and who does Grimlock look up to, you know? That's a metaphorical question. I'm just kidding. All right, so ball peg, you get down and then you get up at an angle. So not the greatest, rather. Then we have silver paint, red metallic paint, and gold chrome. Looks beautiful. All the deco on this guy is gorgeous. There's all this too, I want to zoom in. The little attention to detail behind the head. This gold plate here, all that sculpted detail on that. They didn't need to do that. No reason to. And they did it. I like stuff like that. All right. Waist. We have a swivel. No real ab crunch. No side to side. That's kind of become an expectation. Unfortunately, when these guys were designed, it was not an expectation. So it does feel a little bit behind the curve being released so current. But I think you'll be fine without it, to be honest. I think that the ab crunch is pretty much a luxury, honestly. All right. Universals for shoulders. nice ratchets out to the side for 90 degrees. Very well done, very well executed. And then down, and then ratcheted around. Perfect, no issues. And then we had the gold, the metallic red painted inside there. Looks beautiful. We have a bicep swivel, also ratcheted. Not sure it needed to be, but it is. Double jointed elbow. That doesn't have a great range, to be honest, to be double jointed. But it's there. Then we have some gold and red paint and black paint down there, as well as the silver paint, or gold and silver on the kind of bits there. And then your toes here are gold chrome and they move. This isn't the most secure connection, and it has other issues as well, which we'll talk about in a bit. And a nice deco on the inside there. Wrist swivel. Thumb is on a ball peg, which comes out to an additional hinge and then a secondary hinge at the thumb. Then the fingers all, I think, are ball pegs, honestly, at the base, and then they're hinged forward, but they're pinned, so you should be good to go. And there's a hinge at each knuckle, so they're completely articulated, no issues. All right, we have the metallic red here, and the silver paint there, all of which looks beautiful. The articulation is the same for the other side as far as the arm is concerned. We do have these waist flaps. They get up and out of the way. They peg in to here. And you have the universals. Oh yeah, these flaps here on the side too, and on the back. You have universals for hips. Inconsistent ratchets, inconsistent hard ratchets though, and they seem to hold just fine, honestly, with just the tension. We'll get you the full Van Damme. Inconsistent front and back as well, but they are hard ratchets once again. But this waist flap here doesn't want to go the whole range, so you get that far, which I think is more than enough for what you'll ever need. Only thing it prevents me doing is saying the full Monty. Okay, thigh swivel, no issue there. Good to go. Knee, single hinge, gets you 90 degrees. The problem that I have with the knee is there's nothing to stop it from going forward. Now, some people might like that. Like I got a walking pose out of this that you'll see towards the end that I wouldn't have been able to get had it not. But unfortunately, what I found is while I've been posing this guy, he's heavy, and proportionately, the top part is just larger than the bottom part. So he has a tendency to want to lean a bit. Not a big deal. Not going to get in your way. Nothing that you can't fix. Just pointing it out. All right. Then we have metallic green, red, and then the metallic blue. And on the bottom too, you have the clear translucent over top. All of this is silver finish, silver paint, gold paint, red paint. And then on the inside, plain, but has a finish. So, beautiful. Then we have the ankles, which I'm not crazy about. But you have the black deco down there, as well as ton of sculpted details throughout this entire figure, to be honest. But you get a little bit of an ankle tilt down. I'm talking minuscule. Nothing really up, and then not really a rocker either. You do get this piece that kind of comes down and can give him some support. And it feels like it's on a ball peg there. Yeah, it's on a ball peg there, so it'll get you some support, but it doesn't really actually do anything. This part slides down as well and gets you an ankle tilt the opposite way out, but you don't need that. You need it to go the other way, so that's a bit of a limitation. Real quick before we move on, you can kind of cheat the ankle rocker by moving the knee out to the side, but it's not a good look. It's possible and you can do it, but it's not great looking. And then also that can kind of fix the bow-leggedness as well, but it also makes it a little unstable. So it's not perfect, but it's definitely a workaround. And then I'll show you him from the back, and yeah, looks good. No issues. It's pretty. They know how to paint a figure. That's a fact. Size comparison wise, there it is next to the Fans Toys. So significantly larger. The head of Fans Toys comes up to just about mid mouth plate of the Gigapower. And the Gigapower, I feel like the Gigapower silver paint stands out far more than the flat gray plastic on the Fans Toys. However, there are things about the Fans Toys I think that are done better. I think the proportions are done better on the Fans Toys. And I think there's something in this area with these legs that just looks better here. It looks more straight and purposeful than this. And there it is next to the Magic Square Prime. And really, I really feel like scale is in the eye of the beholder in general, but I think that Grimlock is a special case where it's super in the eye of the beholder, because there are some episodes where I feel like he does tower over Prime like this, whereas I feel like most episodes he does not. But it depends on what had an impact on you, right? And how you saw that character forever. So I get it, but there's a size comparison for it. Let's get him transformed. And as we do this, I'm going to point out a couple extra kind of minor articulation points that I don't think actually really count as articulation points, but we might as well talk about them when we go through them. So move the dino head kind of up and out of the way in order to move your wings back towards one another. Kind of an articulation point, kind of not, right? Slide these tabs down. This one has a tendency to slide down by itself. It's a little looser. This one's a little bit more stiff, so to speak. And that will allow you to move this entire backpack assembly up, if I can get a grip on it, to that. Pull his shoulders out, which once again is kind of an extra articulation point, but you don't really need it. And that should let you bring his chest down. But I'll tell you, it has given me ton of grief. Then take the plastic assembly that we pulled out from the center of the chest, rotate it towards the front of the chest until it finds its next location, and then push it in. It's hard to see, but I'll do my best to show you again on the second side. Now, this seems to be the point of issue, right? The hands, this piece here is breaking all over the place. So what you want to do is make sure that you have this at an angle with this piece facing this way. Like, that's why I'm keeping it here while the leg is put towards the back so that you can see the angle. Then that should open for you. If you get any resistance whatsoever while moving this piece, stop, reassess, and go. There are small little tabs that put into that to keep the hinge, and they should have been pinned, and that would have solved that problem, but they're not, so be careful. And then close that back up, and then you can put the leg down. Once again, for the other side, this is the opposite way. So we want that down and that up, so that the arm kind of forms a little valley, for lack of a better term, a little bucket, a little hammock. Open up this flap, any resistance whatsoever, stop, fold the hand in. Oh, my thumb is all gunked up. Hold on. There's a tight little tolerance there as well. Sorry you couldn't see that. And then close it back up and then rotate the arm down. Okay, now let's get Grimlock's head covered and his dino head down. So slide these gold slabs, for lack of a better term, back. Make sure that this back piece is all the way up. Bring the shoulder, the chest around. Bring the head down so that the chest encompasses the tab of the head, and then bring the other one around to do the same, grabbing the other half of the tab and then closing up in the center. There. Turn the thigh out so you can see what you're doing. You need to unlatch this piece here and just get that to the side. Then bring this whole piece down, and this has to come with it. And I got news for you, that wasn't easy for me either. And it should be a little easier, but not impossible, as you saw. So let's fold this down, and then we have to unfurl the tail. And this doesn't feel good, so be careful. I have a history with Gigapower tails, and there's a extension piece here that will allow you to get that tail in kind of in line, and then take this piece, which is the final bit of tail, flip it out, spin it around, and that's half of it. Okay, so set yourself up for a position of success. Rotate the thigh around so that it'll fold up properly, because we need this on the back. Take the foot, extend it down, take this piece, rotate it around. Get this piece of styrofoam out of here, because we're gonna fold this back onto itself, and we're gonna try to finagle it into position. And I got news for you, it's a disaster. So I'm gonna get it close, off camera probably, and we'll come back and take a look at it, all right? So I got it. It's got to be at an angle, and just the right angle for it all to kind of work. And I still, like, that doesn't look right to me. But I'll tell you, it's frustrating. And I've had, like, this piece was falling off, the arms were popping off. It's frustrating. All right, so let's try to show the other leg. So once again, we have it out to the side. We're gonna get this little tab free. We're gonna fold this down, get this piece to come with it. As we get to here, we're going to extend this armature that holds the tail that makes me super nervous. And we're going to get that in line, pulling a bit on the tail in order to do so. It's spring loaded. Once we get it fully extended, you can grab the tip of the tail, so to speak, fold it around, and then spin it to the desired location. So now we're going to set ourselves up for a position of success, which basically means turning the leg around to the opposite side. We got to get this hip skirt up a bit in order to get the leg at the right angle, which is back. It's not straight. Fold. Let's bring the foot down first. Bring this heel spur out and around. It's just hard to keep track of all this stuff while you're... There it is. Fold this onto itself. Fold this piece down. There is a plastic tab here, if you can see it, that we're trying to line up with the inside of the foot. And then this piece has to take that tab and go down into there, and that's when you know you've got her secured. Also, you can go ahead and start tabbing in the tail, the main part of the tail body as you do so. And I'm not going to push it any further, but I mean, that did it. All right, so let's go ahead and get this tail connected, and it just has a number of different connection points and some small tabs, so please be careful. Line up this bar and this bar with those two open grooves and get it into position. I'll get it cleaned up, we'll take a look at it. And there he is. And he looks good. Not easy to get there, but it is a very impressive T-Rex mode. I prefer it much more than the robot mode. I like it a good deal. So articulation, we kind of know what the arms do. We already talked about it. The head does swivel on a ratchet. Jaw goes up and down, or the head on the neck goes up and down on a ratchet. Jaw goes up and down on a ratchet. The gun inside the mouth goes up and down on a hinge. Red painted eyes. Looks good. Arms we already talked about. They are kind of obnoxious to deal with. This one's tolerance better than this one. This one is tight, and it's just the chrome fitting. It's just not accounted for there. We've already talked about the legs, but they're the arms for the robot. You get the same stuff. It's a little bit more limited though, because you have the fist inside of this cavity. So you had to use pretty much the upper joint, but like I said, I don't think it'll cause you any problems. You know, it's pretty well done, to be fair. Tons of paint, tons of deco, all that stuff comes through. It's good looking. I like it. Let's see some size comparisons. There's the Takara, so it pretty much dwarfs that. I'm good with the Takara one, but you know, it's crazy. I do think that the Takara one still, that's one of the Takara's strengths. They still manage to capture something about the character and the head sculpts that a lot of the other companies I feel like miss out on. And Tiger Tracks. Final thoughts wise, let's talk about the negatives. The biggest negative for me is getting that back piece to work. And what I mean is during the transformation, the engineering process of turning the lower legs into the tail. And it's not that it's overly complicated. I think I'm just scared to death to break some of the smaller tabs and pieces. And it's a lot that kind of has to line up. While we're on the subject, obviously the way that they did the flaps for the front toes was inefficient, ineffective, and careless. Speaking of carelessness, there's some issues regarding the chrome plating on the arms, both in the way that the wrist tolerance connect to them and the way that they're able to mobilize within the sockets on the chest. I have some articulation issues with this. Limited ankle articulation, limited head and robot mode articulation, which could have been easily fixed. And I think that's what I find frustrating about that. And it does take away from it. And then the final thing I would talk about is just that there's something wrong with the lower legs to me. Like, I feel like they bow out a bit, like he looks bow-legged to me. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it's something I can't unsee. They seem to be shaped like opposite parentheses. Add that to the non-stopping ratchet in the knee, and there is a little bit of a stability issue. But I don't want to make it sound like it's all bad, because there's beautiful things about this. First and foremost, the materials. It feels outstanding. Secondly, the paint. Pretty much covered in deco from head to toe. Has a huge presence. Has tons of hardware. The engineering is straightforward and simple yet fun on most of it. The sculpt is 100% beautiful, and I love the alt mode. So if you have the others, this is an easy buy. No problem whatsoever. If you don't have the others and you're thinking about what set to go, you just have a lot of things to weigh. The good news is there's not a bad set. Each set does something better than the other, really. And when I say the sets, I'm speaking about the Fans Toys or the Gigapower. And I think we should take a minute and talk about the perseverance of this company. This set has taken forever to produce, but they did it. Took years and years and years, but they did it. They got it done. They didn't leave anybody hanging, and there's something that needs to be commended for that. I'm anxious to see if they got anything planned for the future now that this is over, or if they're just going to see their way out. Time will tell. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.